Okay, so by the way, this will be the video for the Holt Winter seasonal method, which pertains to the additive Holt Winters. This is the additive way of calculating this one. Our goal is to forecast week 6 to week 10. So for the additive, we do have a formula here then. If you don't know how to interpret this one here, the YT minus ST minus M, there is Y current and S prev that we will begin to deal with. So how to work on this? Actually, it is really basic or simple that we could be able to work on this carefully. Now, what we have to do, we have to initialize first. How to initialize? There will be a trend, there will be a seasonal, and there will be a level that we'll be going to deal with. So for the level, that is, okay, level of week 1. The level of week 1, that is here average of all months. So you have to average of all the months. So 300 plus 600 plus 900 plus 1,200 plus 1,500. How many data points that you do have? There are 5. So the average is 300 plus 600 plus 900 plus 1,200 plus 1,500. That is 4,500. Over 5 divided by 5, that is 900. So therefore, your level of week 1 right now for the initialized step, that is 900. Now, what about the trend for week 1, which is the initialization? So for initialization class, there is a specific difference between each consecutive pair of periods or average of first half. I mean, you will be going to get the first half average, then second half. So when we say first half, we will be going to have we'll begin to divide that. For example, 300 um plus 600 plus 900 divided by 3. Then the second half is 1 2 plus 1 5 divide 2. Then you have 2 3. What will be the answer for this? You will deduct that here, so it will be a long process. That is somewhat confusing actually if we'll begin to deal with that formula. I'm sorry. So what we'll begin to follow is that the initialization that we'll begin to identify is the difference between each consecutive. So when we say difference each consecutive, it will become here. For example, the week 2 will be deducted into the week 1. That's how it will work. 600 minus 300, then plus 900 minus 600 plus 1,200 minus 900 plus 1,500 minus 1,200. Then n minus 1. What is n minus 1? That is 5 minus 1. Your n is 5. The data set that you have is 5. Minus 1 is like that. Now, you have to do it in a step-by-step manner. 600 minus 300 minus, it will become 300. Plus 900 minus 600, it will become 300. Plus 1,200 minus 900 equals 300. 1,500 minus 1,200 equals 300. And then over 4, then 3, 6, 9, 12, that is 1,200 over 4. And that is basically 1,200 divided by 4. So that is 300. So your level, your trend right now is 300. And for the seasonality class, we will initialize each of this because the seasonal indices, the quotient between actual value and level. When we say quotient, that is for the, what do you call this one? Since we're doing the additive, let me just, that is the deduction supposedly. Okay, so for the seasonality, and this says here, class, that that quotient right here that was mentioned, that is the Holt Winters multiplicative initialization. But for the additive, it must be the actual value minus with the you will be going to deduct that the level. So you will be going to the difference between actual value and the level. So what will happen here then? So seasonality initialization. So for initializing that, we have here week one. Week one is you're having 300 minus the level. The level that you do have right now is 900. So that is the answer. 300 minus 900. So it will be negative actually. Equals negative 600. What about for week two? That is 600 minus 900. And that will become 300. Negative. Week three is 900 minus 900. That is 0. Week four, that is 1,200 minus 900. That is positive 300. Then week five, that is 1,500 minus 900 is equals to 600. That's how you will do that one. So, since we're able to have the initialization, we can definitely calculate already the week two level, trend, and seasonality already. Now, what we will begin to do right now. So, for example, level of week two. So the level of week two, that is A alpha, that our alpha for right now is 0.4 times the YT, or the current value of the week two, that is 600. Then minus the ST minus M. When we say ST minus M, that is the previous seasonality. The previous seasonality is negative 600. So previous seasonality for week one. That is not for week, since we are already in week two. Now, plus into the smoothing parameter, 1 minus 0.4, and then times that into the previous level. The previous level that you do have is 900. Then my plus the previous trend. Your previous trend is 300. Okay, that's how you will do it. So 0.600 minus 600, negative 600, it will become 1,200 because that will become plus. Then 0.6, 900 plus 300, it will become 1,200. And 0.4 times the 1,200 will become 480. Then 0.6 times 1,200, it will become 720. Then adding that up to 480, it will become 1,200. So this will be the smooth out data for the level of week two, and we'll proceed to the trend of week two. So for the trend of week two, that is using the formula of beta. Your beta value is 0.3. Then times to the level of the current level, which is 1,200. Then minus to the previous level. What is the previous level? The previous level that you do have is 900. And then plus the parameter 1 minus 0.3. and then times to the previous trend. What is the previous trend that you do have? Negative 600. Okay? That's how you will deal with that. And afterwards, 0.3 since that is the no. The previous trend is not negative 600. That is 300. Right? Yes, 300. Because our formula is here. This one. So, previous current level 1, 2, my previous level is 900. Then beta 1 minus 0.3. Then previous trend is 300. So calculating that one, 0.3, 1,200 minus 900, it will become 300 plus 0.7 times 300. So 0.3 times 300 is 90 plus 0.7 plus times 300 will become 210 plus 90, that will become 300 still. Now, what about for seasonal? For the season of week 2, how to do it? Given that your formula right now is having here, that you're for the Holt winter additive method, your formula that you will be going to use is definitely the gamma times the yt minus lt plus 1 minus y, then st minus m. When we say st minus m, that is the previous seasonality. Okay. So your gamma is 0.6. Then times to the y of t. What is the y of t? That is 600, the current data. Then 600 minus the current level. The level that you do have right now is 1,200. And then afterwards plus the parameter. And then times to the previous seasonality. The previous seasonality is negative 600. So what will happen? 600 minus 1,200, that will become negative 600. And 0.4 times negative 600. And 0.6 times 600 negative, that is negative 360. Plus 0.4 times negative 600 as well, that is negative 240. So adding that up, negative 360 plus 240 negative, that is negative 600. So this is the seasonal for week 2. After getting the seasonal, the week 2, we'll proceed to the week, level of week 3. Wherein you will use the alpha. The alpha that you do have is 0.4. Then your current value for that one, the current value of week 3, rather. Week 3 is 900. So 900. So minus your the previous seasonality. Your previous seasonality is negative 600. So negative 600. Afterwards, plus the parameter minus 0.4, and then times to the current the previous level that you do have. The previous level that you do have is 1,200 plus the previous trend. The previous trend that you do have is 300. So calculating that one, is 0.4, 900 minus negative 600. That will become minus 600 negative 1,500. And plus 0.6, 1,200 plus, that is 1,500. Okay, so 0.4 times 1,500, that is 600. Plus 0.6 times 1,500, that is 900. Okay, plus 600, it will come 1,500. So your current level right now is 1,500, and we'll proceed to the current the week 3 trend, which you are using the beta, and your beta is 0.3. So 0.3 times the current level, that is 1,500. Minus today previous level, which is 1,200. And then plus today parameter, which is 1 minus 0.3. And then your times to the previous trend, which is 300. So what will happen right now? 1,500 minus 1,200, it will become 300. Plus 0.7 times 300. Calculating that will still equate 0.3 times 300, that is 90. Tapos 0.7 times 300, it will become still 210. So calculating that will really still equate 300. Then seasonality for week 3, given that your gamma is 0.6, excuse me, then the current data set for week 3, that is 900. And then minus 2, the current level, which is 1,500. And then plus to the parameter. And then times to the previous seasonality. The previous seasonality value is negative 600. So what will happen right now? 0.6. No. 900 minus 1,500. It will become negative 600. Then plus 0.4, then negative 600. And, excuse me, it will become negative 360 plus, I'm sorry, that went out. Excuse me then. Let me just reopen the tool. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Now what will happen here? 0.6 minus times negative 600 equals negative 360 plus negative 240 is equals to negative 600. Okay, that is for the week 3. What about for the level of week 4? For level of week 4, 0.4 times the current data, which is 1,200, minus the current the previous seasonality, that is negative 600, times a plus 1 minus the parameter. Then the current the previous level, which is 1,500, plus the trend. Okay, it will become 1,200 minus the 600 negative, that is 1/8. Then plus 0.6 times 1/8 as well. And 0.4 times 1,800 is 720, plus 0.6 times 1,800 as well. That is 1,080. When calculating that one into 720, it will still equate to 1,800. Then for the trend of week 4, will be calculating 0.3. Then the current level is 1,800 minus the previous level, that is 1,500. Then plus the parameter. Then the previous trend that you do have, which is 300 as well. So what will happen? 0.318 minus 1,500 plus 0.7, then 300. So it will still equate 90. Then plus 210. And it's still 300. And for the seasonality of week 4, it will become 0.6 times the current data, which is 1,200, minus into the current level, which is 1,800, and then plus with the parameter, and then the times with the previous seasonality, which is negative 600. So 1,200 minus 1,800, that is still negative 600. And then 0.4 times negative 600. So what will happen right now? Negative 360 still, plus negative 240. And negative 600 in total, the same thing. So that is your current seasonality for the current level week. And what about for week 5? So you have 0.4, then your data is 1,500 minus to the previous seasonality, which is negative 600. And then plus the parameter, and then times into the previous level, which is 1,800, plus the previous trend, which is 300. Okay, so 0.4 no, 1,500 minus 600 600 negative, that is 2,100. And then 0.6, then 1/8 times plus 300, that is 2,100. Now what will happen? 0.4 times 21, that will equate to 840, plus 0.6 times 2,100, that is 1,260. And adding that up into that one, it will equate to 2,100. And let's proceed with the week 5 trend. So for the week 5, we have 0.3. Then the current level, which is 2,100. Then the previous level, which is the 1,800. And then plus the parameter, 1 minus 0.3. And then the trend that you do have, the previous trend is, yeah, the trend is 300. So what will happen? 2,100 minus 1,800, that will equate to 300, plus 0.7, then 300 will equate to 90, plus 210, that equates to 300 then. Then for your seasonality of week 5, that is 0.6 then your current data is 1,500 minus the current level, which is 2,100, and then plus the parameter 1 minus 0.6, then the previous seasonality, which is negative 600. Now, what will happen in here? 0.6, 1,500, then you will be going to deduct that into 2,100. That equates to negative 600, which then equates to still the same answer. So negative 0.6 times negative 600, that is negative 360, plus 0.4 minus negative, no, times negative 600, that is negative 240. So what will happen here then? It will still equates to negative 600. So that is for the seasonality of level week 5 on trend and seasonality. Now we will be going to get already now the forecast for forecast of week 6 up until 10. So for forecasting that one, that is the current level. The current level right now is 2,100. Then plus into the H, this is the first week. So that is 1 times into the current trend, which is 300. And then plus to the initialized seasonality of week 1. So what is the initialized seasonality? That is negative 600 for the week 1. So negative 600. Because you will base here from week 1 up until week 5. This, that's why it is indicated right here that as seasonal initial, because it will matter with that one. So for week 6, the initialize you will use is for week 1. Then for week 7, week 2. For week 8, week 3. For week 9, week 4. For week 10, week 5. And for week 11, week 1. Going back to the week 1. That's how it worked here. So calculating that one, you have to do it step by step. So it will still equate to 300 plus negative 600. So we can just calculate that automatically right now. 2,100 plus 300 plus negative 600. So it will become 1,800 for the week 6. Then week 7. It equals to 2,100. The same data for the level and the same data for the trend. So that is 2 times 300 and plus the seasonality initialized of week 2. That is negative 300. Negative 300. So what will become right now? Plus 600 and plus negative 300. So what will happen? 2,100 plus 600 plus 300 negative, that is 2,400. And for week 8, okay, there is 2,100 plus 3, because this is the third week, times 300 plus negative, no, that's not negative for the initialized one, because this is 0 already. So that is 0. So what will happen here? 2,100 plus 3 times 300, it will become 900 plus 0. And then 2,100 plus 900 plus 0, that equates to 3,000 already. And for week 9, the same implementation, that is 2,100 plus 4 already, times 300 plus your initialized for week 4, that is 300. Okay, so 2,100 plus 4 times 300, that is 1,200 plus 300. So this will equate to Okay, that is all in all 3,600. So, for week na 10, so 2,100 plus 5 times 300 plus 300. Oh, no, not 300. It's already 600. So, 2,100 plus 5 times 300, that is 1,500 plus 600. So, 2,100 plus 1,500 plus 600, it will equate to 4,200. So this will be the answer for the forecast of week 6 up until week 10. How you will begin to calculate that in one by one. You have to do it step by step so that you could be able to have this output as you go through. So this will be the implementation for the additive Holt winters or the triple exponential smoothing implementation. And I will be going to also upload a separate video for the multiplicative Holt winters seasonal method, and see you in that video. Thank you.